Welcome to Nazi Zombie Week. This actually is going to be a co-production between myself here at the Geek Legion of Doom and Paul from Buckaroo Banzai, aka Ballistic Blood Bullets. And we're going to be doing a zombie Nazi film review every day this week. So go check out his channel. If you haven't already, go subscribe. He's a great YouTuber. And obviously, if you're watching this, hopefully you'll subscribe to my channel. So if you like Nazi zombies, strap in, because you're going to have a whole 7 days worth of them. And we're going to start with Outpost, which is a 2007 movie. And now I have to say, I have reviewed a couple of Nazi zombie films on my channel before. So I'm not going to re-review films that I've already kind of reviewed. So if there's some glaring omissions here, it's possibly because I've already reviewed them. So we'll start with Outpost. Now, Outpost is the one that I rewatched for this review, but I have actually seen before. And, you know, it's garnered a fair amount of attention because it was a relatively low-budget film, but it's very well made for the budget. And this movie stars Ray Stevenson, who you may know from The Punisher Warzone. He was in the Thor movies. He's been in Dexter, Rome. So he's a face you're probably going to recognise. He normally plays kind of the military types. And this is what he's playing here. So the story here is a kind of a corporate man, basically, is hired to go to a location to recover something. And then in doing so, he basically recruits a group of mercenaries, from across this kind of like ragtag group of mercenaries, led by Ray Stevenson's character. And they kind of go to, I think it's somewhere kind of Eastern Europe, basically, and they find this kind of sort of underground compound, basically, the Outpost. And we're not quite sure what the actual mission is, or, they're kind of under wraps about what's actually going on. And it turns out it's not Nazi gold, as they first think. It's actually some kind of machine that the Nazis were building in World War II to try and turn the tide of battle by using means of the occult. Now, you probably can guess where this is going to go from this point on. Of course, this is the actual reason why we have Nazi zombies to begin with. And essentially, this kind of small group of mercenaries are attacked after they start seeing weird things by this group of kind of these Nazi zombies, basically. There's also a kind of a bit of a twist where we find a survivor inside this outpost, essentially, and who is he? What's his kind of connection to it all? It will be revealed as the movie goes on. Although I think it's fairly obvious when you can kind of think about timing and stuff like that. But watch the film without kind of going into kind of too many spoilers. There's going to be a little bit of a spoiler here, I have to say, because I have to criticise something where I feel the film did a little bit not as good, but it kind of is a spoiler in its own right. So let's start off with the negatives. So the negatives for me are three things, I guess. The first one, I think some of the kind of the military characters, the mercenaries, are a little bit cliched. They kind of come across as sort of caricatures, basically, and kind of stereotypes of different kind of, a group of very kind of diverse kind of people with all very different sort of personalities. But they go a little bit too far, I feel, in kind of trying to make them their own different types of people, if that makes sense. You can look at the psycho one, you can look at the coward one, you've got there's all sorts of cliches you might see here. Relatively minor complaint, to be fair. The next one, this is one that's going to be a mild spoiler, to be honest with you. When we actually see these kind of zombies, I feel that they are a little bit overpowered. And the reason that's a negative is that you don't ever really feel the human characters really have a chance. Because these guys just are walking through bullets, and we have a couple of combat scenes where the mercenaries are trying to fighting them with guns, and it's simply a waste of time. And in a scene, basically, Ray Stevenson said he's going to try and hold them off and kind of buy some time. I think, how? These guys are literally just walking through bullets like there's nothing. I think it would have been a little bit better to just try and make them maybe not quite invincible, but at least kind of affected by, constant sort of hail of gunfire that's going to at least kind of put the brakes on them to some degree, so I don't feel like it did. However, my main criticism with this is, and this is kind of in regards to zombies as well, is the way these creatures are portrayed is inconsistent in the movie. So when we first see these guys, they pop up almost like ghosts. They appear out of literally thin air in sealed rooms, and just as kind of almost like visions. And then we kind of see them later on as corporeal zombies that can be shot although they don't, they'll kind of flinch to it, but they won't kind of go down. But they literally have to walk from one place to another. They kind of act like, and their intelligence varies as well. For example, you'll see they seem to be unable to sort of go through closed doors at some points, but in other scenes we'll see them following orders and things like that, actually giving orders in some degree. So the way they are sort of portrayed, I feel, just is what the script requires of them at any one point. So at one point we need them to kind of appear out of thin air, so that's what it does. At other points they kind of need to see like a physical force that can be shot at and kind of and punched and stabbed and things like that. But it's inconsistent. I feel if you're going to make a creature feature, you've kind of got to set the rules of your creature and kind of stick to them rather than kind of just vary it as the kind of the film progresses. Now, a positive side, this is a slickly well-made production. I feel on a technical level it's very good. It's got good locales. It's got a great sort of sense of atmosphere. It's a fairly slow start film, and it kind of builds up. The tension ramps up as you see more and more of these kind of these creatures as the film goes on, and it does a good job of kind of building this anticipation to the inevitable climax. And they come across as quite kind of almost as scary zombies. To be honest with you, they come across as quite threatening. The acting was all pretty good, although, like I said, this kind of goes in a little bit with the cliche characters. Although I felt the characters were kind of cliched. They weren't badly acted for the most part, and Ray Stevenson is a pretty solid actor, particularly when he's kind of playing these kind of military style roles, which he does well here. And I have to say, the guy who plays like the corporate sort of guy, now these type of roles, they're normally kind of slimy, and they're normally the ones who you kind of like, this guy needs to bite it, but he come across as quite kind of likeable character actually, and not kind of your typical kind of two-dimensional corporate man. You come across as actually having some kind of intelligence and some kind of integrity as well. So I quite liked his character, even though it's very simple for him to kind of fall into these kind of broad strokes, which he doesn't do. Well, the zombie makeup was quite good. It's very much shrouded in darkness for a lot of times, so you never really get a massively good look at them, but you get a good enough look that you feel like they've done a good job with the kind of these portrayal, and it kind of makes them all that more spooky because they're kind of shrouded in darkness a little bit, basically. And it's a kind of a pretty decent movie in this kind of subgenre that obviously we're looking at this week. So overall, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. I actually quite enjoyed it. Now, if you want more Nazi zombie action, stay tuned, because we're going to have a zombie Nazi movie review every week on my channel and Buckaroo Banzai's channel. I will leave a link to his channel in the description below. Stay tuned for more Nazi Zombie Week. Bye for now.